everyday suspense, where every night begins with a new mystery. If you enjoy our stories, subscribe now so you never miss the next adventure. Now, get comfortable, close your eyes, and let tonight's story begin. Tonight, a letter arrives 80 years too late. It carries no return address, no stamp, only one sentence. Please don't let them forget what happened at Blackwater Lighthouse. Detective Elias Harper has solved dozens of impossible mysteries, but this one feels different. The only witness has been gone for decades. The lighthouse has been locked since the winter of 1946. And yet, every night, someone still lights the lamp at the very top. The townspeople refuse to speak about it. The sea keeps its own quiet secrets. And somewhere inside the old lighthouse, a truth has been waiting, not to be discovered, but to be remembered. So, dim the lights, get comfortable, close your eyes, and let the waves carry you to the place where every mystery begins. Chapter 1. The letter that arrived too late. The rain had already begun, long before Detective Elias Harper noticed the letter. It rested quietly beneath the brass mail slot of his small apartment door. The envelope was cream-colored. Its edges had softened with age. The paper looked as though it had traveled through decades rather than miles. No stamp, no postmark, no return address, only his name, written in elegant black ink. Detective Elias Harper. Nothing more. Elias bent down and picked it up. The paper felt unusually warm. Not hot, just as though it had spent the afternoon resting in gentle sunlight. He closed the apartment door behind him. Outside, rain tapped softly against the windows. Inside, everything remained calm. His apartment overlooked the Atlantic Ocean. From the living room window, he could just make out the distant outline of a lonely lighthouse standing on the cliff several miles away. Its light slowly turned across the gray sea. Steady, patient, comforting. Elias placed the envelope beside his favorite armchair. He did not open it immediately. There was no urgency. He removed his damp coat, hung it neatly by the door, placed a kettle on the stove, ground fresh coffee beans by hand. The familiar routine settled gently over the evening. Some mysteries, he had learned, could wait a few more minutes. The rain grew steadier. The kettle began to whisper. Steam drifted lazily toward the ceiling. Finally, Elias returned to the envelope. He examined the handwriting. Beautiful, careful, almost old-fashioned. The kind of handwriting rarely seen anymore. He slid a small letter opener beneath the flap. The seal released without resistance. Inside, there was only one folded sheet of paper. Nothing else. No photographs. No signatures. No explanation. He unfolded it carefully. The ink had faded slightly with time. Yet every word remained perfectly readable. It said, "If this letter has reached you, then Blackwater Lighthouse has finally decided to remember." Elias frowned gently. He had never heard of Blackwater Lighthouse. He continued reading. Someone died there during the winter of 1946. Everyone believed they knew the truth. Everyone was wrong. A long silence filled the room. Rain continued falling beyond the windows. The old lighthouse across the bay slowly swept its beam across the dark water. Back and forth. Back and forth. Elias read the final sentence. Please don't let them forget what really happened. No signature. Only a date. December 3rd, Road. 1946. Exactly 80 years earlier. Elias carefully folded the letter once again. His expression remained calm. He had solved disappearances, thefts, cold cases, even mysteries that others had abandoned decades before. But something about this letter felt different. Not because of what it said, because of how it felt. It did not seem like a request. It felt like an invitation. Outside, a single flash of lightning illuminated the distant coastline. For one brief second, the lighthouse on the cliffs appeared brighter than the storm itself. Then, darkness returned. Elias carried his coffee toward the window. He watched the beam sweep across the restless sea. Somewhere beyond that endless water, another lighthouse waited. One that had supposedly been abandoned for generations. One that someone, somehow, had just remembered. Chapter 1 Part 2. Blackwater. Elias stood by the window. His coffee had long since grown cold. Outside, the rain continued its gentle conversation with the sea. The lighthouse across the bay turned faithfully. Its warm beam swept across the dark water every 12 seconds. Steady, predictable, comforting. Unlike the letter resting quietly on the table behind him, he unfolded it once more. There was no hidden message. No invisible ink. No unusual markings. Only those few carefully written sentences. Yet the paper carried a faint scent. Not perfume. Not smoke. Salt. Old wood. And the quiet smell of the ocean after a storm. He closed his eyes. Somewhere in his memory, the name Blackwater stirred. Not as a place, as a story. Years ago, while researching forgotten coastal disappearances, he had come across an old newspaper clipping. The article had been no longer than a single column. It mentioned a lighthouse, a winter storm, and the mysterious death of its keeper. Nothing more. The archives had offered no follow-up. Almost as if the story had simply stopped. Elias carried the letter to his desk. He switched on an old brass reading lamp. Its warm glow spread softly across the room. On the shelf behind him, hundreds of leather-bound journals stood in perfect order. Each contained notes from cases he had solved over the years. Every mystery, every answer, every forgotten name. He pulled down the oldest journal. The pages whispered as he turned them. Finally, near the middle, a small newspaper clipping slipped onto the desk. Its edges had yellowed with age. The headline read, Asterisk, Lighthouse Keeper Found Dead During Winter Storm. Asterisk, asterisk. There was no photograph, only a short paragraph. Authorities believe the keeper lost his footing while climbing the northern stairs during severe weather. No evidence of foul play has been discovered. Elias read it twice, then 3 times. Something felt incomplete. Not incorrect. Simply incomplete. He reached for a magnifying glass. Near the bottom of the article, almost hidden beneath a printing crease, one sentence caught his attention. The lighthouse will remain permanently closed following the recommendation of the town council. He leaned back. Why close an entire lighthouse? Because of one tragic accident. It made little sense. Lighthouses had survived storms, fires, wars, even shipwrecks. They were repaired, never abandoned, unless there had been another reason. The rain outside began to soften. Clouds drifted slowly across the moon. A pale silver light entered the room. Elias looked toward a large map hanging beside the bookshelf. Every lighthouse along the eastern coastline had been marked with tiny brass pins. He searched carefully. Cape Rowan, North Point, Greyhaven, White Cliff. Then, near the edge of the map, almost hidden among faded coastline markings, he found it. Blackwater Lighthouse. A small island. Far from every shipping route. Far from every city. Beside the tiny printed name, someone had once written a single pencil note. The handwriting was his own. He had no memory of writing it. The note said only 4 words. Everyone lied that winter. Elias stared at the sentence. His heartbeat remained calm. But somewhere deep inside, curiosity quietly awakened. Who had lied? Why? And why? Could he not remember writing those words? The old grandfather clock in the corner struck 9. One slow chime. Then another. The apartment fell silent once more. Elias folded the letter, placed it inside his coat pocket. Then he quietly packed a small leather bag, a notebook, a fountain pen, a flashlight, a camera, and one warm wool blanket. He carried no weapon. He never had. Because he believed the truth was usually hidden behind silence, not violence. Before leaving, he looked once more toward the sea. The lighthouse across the bay completed another slow turn. Its light crossed the water, then vanished into the darkness. Far beyond that horizon, Blackwater Lighthouse waited. For 80 years, no one had gone looking for the truth. Tomorrow morning, that would finally change. Chapter 1 Part 3. The journey north. Morning arrived quietly. The storm had passed during the night. Only a few silver clouds remained, drifting lazily above the ocean. Elias left his apartment just after sunrise. The streets were almost empty. A baker arranged warm loaves of bread behind a small shop window. A newspaper boy whistled softly as he stacked the morning editions. An elderly couple walked hand in hand along the harbor. Everything felt wonderfully ordinary. It was one of the reasons Elias loved coastal towns. Even when they carried old mysteries, life always continued at a peaceful pace. His car waited beneath an old maple tree. A dark green station wagon. Clean, simple, reliable. The kind of car that never seemed in a hurry. He placed his leather bag on the passenger seat. The letter rested carefully inside his notebook. He started the engine. The radio came alive with quiet jazz, low enough to become part of the morning. The road followed the coastline. To his right, the Atlantic stretched endlessly toward the horizon. Soft waves rolled against weathered cliffs. White seagulls circled lazily overhead. Fishing boats drifted peacefully toward open water. Hours passed without urgency. Elias enjoyed long drives. They gave difficult thoughts room to breathe. Around midday, he stopped at a small roadside cafe overlooking the sea. The wooden sign simply read, "Harbor Rest." Inside, only 4 tables were occupied. A waitress greeted him with a warm smile. Traveling north, Elias nodded. "I am." She poured fresh coffee into a heavy ceramic mug. "The weather should stay calm today." "I hope so." She glanced toward the notebook resting beside him. "Business." He smiled politely. "Something like that." She didn't ask another question. People living along the coast understood that silence could sometimes be a kindness. After finishing his lunch, Elias unfolded the map once again. Blackwater Island lay another 3 hours away. A narrow peninsula connected the mainland to a small fishing village. Beyond that, only the sea. According to the map, the lighthouse stood alone on a rocky island nearly 2 miles offshore. No bridge, no regular ferry, only a tiny symbol marking an old boat landing. He folded the map, paid the bill, and continued north. By late afternoon, the landscape began to change. The cliffs grew taller, the forests denser, the road narrower. Cell phone reception disappeared completely. The radio faded into soft static. Elias switched it off. The silence that followed felt peaceful, almost welcome, as the sun slowly lowered toward the western horizon. A weathered wooden sign appeared beside the road. The white paint had faded with time. It read, "Welcome to Blackwater. Population 417. The village rested quietly between the cliffs and the sea. Small white cottages lined the harbor. Fishing nets hung drying in the cool breeze. Flower boxes overflowed beneath nearly every window. Nothing about the place suggested mystery. Nothing suggested fear. It looked like the kind of town where everyone knew everyone, and where strangers were noticed the moment they arrived. Elias parked beside the harbor. As he stepped from the car, he heard something unexpected. Not voices, not waves. A bell. Far away. Deep. Slow. One single chime. He looked toward the open sea. Beyond the fishing boats. Beyond the drifting gulls. A lonely island stood against the fading light. At its highest point, a lighthouse rose above the cliffs. Dark. Silent. Its lantern room appeared empty. No beam crossed the ocean. No keeper watched the sea. Yet, just for the briefest moment, Elias could have sworn someone was standing at the very top, looking back at him. Chapter Part 4. The woman at the harbor. Elias remained still. The distant figure atop the lighthouse did not move. The evening sun rested low upon the horizon. Golden light shimmered across the sea. He blinked once. When he looked again, the lantern room was empty. Only the silent lighthouse remained, standing exactly as it had for generations, watching the endless Atlantic. The single bell rang again, slowly, patiently. Its deep voice drifted across the water before fading into the breeze. Elias turned toward the harbor. Fishing boats rocked gently against the wooden docks. Ropes creaked softly. Seagulls floated lazily overhead. The village carried the peaceful rhythm of another ordinary evening. An elderly woman stood at the end of the pier. She wore a long navy blue coat despite the mild weather. A woven basket rested beside her feet. Inside, fresh white lilies. One by one, she placed them into the sea. Each flower drifted away without haste. The tide carried them toward the open water, toward the island, toward Blackwater Lighthouse. Elias approached quietly. He stopped several feet away. Neither of them spoke at first. The ocean filled the silence. Finally, the woman smiled without turning around. "You must be Detective Harper." Elias blinked gently. "I don't believe we've met." "We haven't." Her voice was calm. "But I knew you would come." She released another lily into the water. It floated beside the others. "Did someone tell you I was coming?" "No." "Then how did you know?" She watched the flowers drift farther from the shore. "Because the lighthouse always chooses someone." A long pause followed. "It has been waiting for many years." Elias glanced toward the island again. "The letter." The woman nodded once. "So, you wrote it?" She smiled sadly. "I only kept it safe." The person who wrote it. Her eyes remained fixed on the sea. Never had the chance to send it. The evening breeze carried the scent of salt and pine through the harbor. Somewhere behind them, a church bell marked the passing hour. The village continued settling into night. Windows began glowing with warm yellow light. Families gathered around dinner tables. Children laughed somewhere along a nearby street. Life moved peacefully onward. Yet beneath that peaceful rhythm, the old mystery waited. Elias looked at the basket. Only one lily remained. "Why the flowers?" The woman's smile softened. "Every autumn," she whispered, "someone from this village brings them here." "For whom?" She looked toward the distant lighthouse. "For the ones who never came home." The final lily drifted gently into the sea. The basket was empty. The old woman picked it up. Before leaving, she reached into her coat pocket. She removed a small brass key. Its surface had darkened with age. A tiny lighthouse had been engraved into its handle. She placed it carefully into Elias' hand. The front door still remembers this key. Elias examined it in the fading light. It's been locked for 80 years. So everyone believes. She smiled once more, then quietly added, "But old locks." She paused. "Sometimes remember the hands that loved them." Without another word, she walked slowly back toward the village. Her footsteps faded into the evening. Elias remained alone at the end of the pier. The brass key rested warmly in his palm. Across the quiet water, Blackwater Lighthouse stood against the darkening sky. Silent, patient, waiting. Then, just as the last colors of sunset disappeared beyond the horizon, a faint golden light appeared inside the lantern room, only for a heartbeat. Then, it was gone. Chapter 2 Part 1. The inn by the sea. The golden light disappeared, as though it had never been there. The lighthouse stood silent once again, dark, still, watching the sea without a single beam. Elias remained at the end of the pier for another minute. The brass key rested comfortably in his pocket. Its weight was surprisingly reassuring, not because it promised answers, but because it promised a beginning. The harbor slowly settled into evening. Lanterns outside the cottages glowed one by one. Warm amber circles of light reflected gently upon the calm water. The fishing boats had returned for the night. Their crews laughed quietly while folding nets and coiling ropes. Nothing about the village suggested that it carried an 80-year-old secret. If someone had arrived without the letter, they might have believed Blackwater was one of the safest places in the world. Elias turned away from the sea. At the top of the harbor road stood a small wooden inn. A carved sign swung gently above the entrance. The tide and lantern in its windows glowed with welcoming light. Flower boxes overflowed beneath each one. A black cat slept peacefully beside the front steps. The moment Elias opened the door, a small brass bell chimed, not loudly, just enough to announce a visitor. The scent of fresh bread, cinnamon, and burning oak filled the air. A stone fireplace crackled quietly in one corner. Old photographs covered the walls. Fishing families, storms, boats, children playing on the beach decades ago. Behind the front desk stood a middle-aged man polishing a pair of reading glasses. He smiled warmly. "You must be our late guest. I hope I'm not too late." "Not at all." The man extended his hand. "My name is Thomas. Elias Harper." "I know." Thomas reached beneath the counter and lifted an old leather guest book. "I've been expecting you." Elias smiled politely. "That seems to happen quite often today." Thomas chuckled softly. "This is a small town. News travels faster than the tide." He handed Elias a brass room key attached to a piece of polished driftwood. "Room 7. The one overlooking the sea." Elias thanked him. Before walking upstairs, he paused beside one of the old photographs. It showed Blackwater Lighthouse many decades earlier. Unlike tonight, its great lantern blazed proudly against the evening sky. Several people stood outside. A keeper, a young woman, 2 fishermen, and a little girl holding a white gull feather. Everyone was smiling peacefully, as though nothing terrible had ever happened there. Elias leaned closer. Near the bottom corner, someone had written a date in faded ink. October 1946. Only 2 months before the keeper died. Thomas noticed the photograph. "Beautiful picture." "It is. Do you know who they are?" Thomas became quiet. For several moments, he simply watched the fire. "Finally," he answered, My grandfather took that photograph. And the people, the lighthouse keeper. He pointed gently. His daughter. The two brothers who brought supplies every Thursday. Then, his finger stopped above the little girl. Thomas smiled sadly. No one ever learned her name. Elias looked back at the picture. The little girl seemed younger than 10. She held the gull feather carefully against her coat, looking not at the camera, but toward the sea, almost as though she was waiting for someone. What happened to her? Thomas slowly shook his head. No one knows. The fire crackled softly. Outside, the wind carried the distant sound of waves against the cliffs. Thomas adjusted his glasses. Then quietly added, "Some people say," he smiled gently, "that every autumn, someone leaves a single white feather at the lighthouse door." The room became silent again. No one rushed to fill it. Some stories were patient. They knew exactly when they wished to be told. Chapter 2, Part 2, Room 7. Elias climbed the old wooden staircase. Each step creaked softly beneath his feet, not with age, but with familiarity, as though the inn had welcomed travelers for so many years, that every footstep had become part of its memory. The upstairs hallway was warm. Small oil paintings lined the walls. Most showed quiet scenes of the sea. Fishing boats at sunrise. Gentle waves beneath moonlight. Children collecting seashells. Nothing dramatic. Only peaceful moments. Room 7 waited at the very end of the corridor. The brass key turned easily in the lock. The door opened with the faint scent of cedar wood and lavender. The room was simple. A neatly made bed. An old writing desk beside the window. A rocking chair. A bookshelf with only a few well-loved novels. Nothing more. Nothing less. It felt comfortable. Elias placed his leather bag on the desk, then walked toward the window. From here, the view stretched across the entire harbor, beyond the quiet fishing boats, beyond the calm evening tide. Blackwater Lighthouse stood against the stars, dark, silent, almost invisible. He reached into his pocket. The old brass key was still there. He placed it gently beside the mysterious letter. The two objects looked strangely connected, as though they had spent decades waiting to meet again. A gentle knock came at the door. Thomas stood outside carrying a small wooden tray. A steaming pot of chamomile tea, fresh bread, and a tiny jar of local honey. "I thought you might like something warm." "Thank you." Thomas placed the tray on the desk. Before leaving, he hesitated. "If you're planning to visit the lighthouse tomorrow." Elias looked up. "I am." Thomas nodded slowly. "The tide will be lowest just after sunrise. That's the safest time." "The safest?" Thomas smiled faintly. "The sea around Blackwater has a habit." He searched for the right words. "Of changing its mind." With that, he quietly closed the door. The room became peaceful once again. Elias poured himself a cup of tea. The steam rose slowly into the warm lamplight. Outside, the moon climbed higher above the sea. The village lights reflected gently across the harbor. Everything felt wonderfully still. He opened his notebook. On the first empty page, he wrote only 3 questions. Who wrote the letter? Why was the lighthouse abandoned? Who was the little girl in the photograph? He set down his fountain pen. Those 3 questions were enough. Good investigations, he believed, always began with simple questions. The complicated answers came later. A sudden breeze touched the window. The curtains moved gently. Elias frowned. The window had been closed. He walked over. The latch was still locked. Yet somehow, the room carried the fresh scent of the ocean. He looked toward the lighthouse. Its lantern room remained dark. Then, something caught his eye. Near the entrance of the lighthouse, a tiny white shape rested on the stone steps. Too small to be a person, too bright to be a rock. Elias reached for the small binoculars resting on the windowsill. He adjusted the focus carefully. The image became clearer. His heartbeat remained calm. It was a single white feather, resting quietly before the old wooden door. Exactly where Thomas had said it would be. The wind did not move it. The sea did not carry it away. It simply remained there, as though someone had placed it there only moments ago. Chapter 2 Part 3. The boatman who never asked questions. Elias lowered the binoculars. The white feather remained exactly where it was. Perfectly still. The moonlight rested gently upon it, making it almost glow against the weathered stone. He watched for several more minutes. No one appeared. No boat crossed the water. No light shone from the lighthouse. Eventually, he closed the curtains. Some mysteries, he reminded himself, did not become clearer by staring at them all night. He finished the last of his tea, blew out the reading lamp, and lay quietly beneath the warm blankets. Outside, the waves rolled against the cliffs with the slow rhythm of breathing. The old inn settled into silence. A floorboard creaked somewhere down the hallway. Then, nothing. Elias slept peacefully. Morning arrived with the gentle cries of seagulls. Golden sunlight spilled across the wooden floor. The sea looked entirely different now. The storm had vanished. The water stretched across the bay like polished glass. After breakfast, Elias packed only what he needed. His notebook, the brass key, the mysterious letter, a flashlight, and his camera. Thomas met him near the front door. "The tide is turning," he smiled. "If you're going, now is the time." The harbor was already awake. Fishermen repaired their nets. Children chased gulls along the shore. Fresh bread cooled on windowsills. The smell of salt and warm pastries filled the crisp morning air. At the far end of the dock, a single wooden boat waited. Its paint had faded from years beneath the sun. An elderly man sat quietly inside. He wore a thick gray sweater and an old wool cap. His hands rested calmly upon the oars. He looked up as Elias approached. Without surprise, without curiosity. "You'll be wanting the lighthouse." It wasn't a question. Elias nodded. "If you're willing." The old boatman smiled gently. I've been rowing people across this bay for 40 years. He untied the rope. But you're only the third person who has asked to go there. The boat drifted away from the dock. The village slowly grew smaller behind them. The sea was almost perfectly calm. Each stroke of the oars created soft circles upon the water. Neither man hurried to speak. Silence felt natural here. After several peaceful minutes, the boatman finally broke it. Do you believe old stories? Detective Elias watched a pair of dolphins surface in the distance. I believe they usually begin with something true. The old man nodded. My father used to say that the lighthouse never frightened anyone. He dipped the oars gently into the sea. It only remembered. Another long silence followed. The island slowly grew larger. The cliffs rose straight from the ocean. White seabirds circled high above the rocks. Wildflowers covered the grassy slopes despite the salty wind. Blackwater Lighthouse stood proudly. You seem certain I'll stay that long? The old man chuckled. Everyone who came looking for answers. He glanced toward the towering lighthouse. Needed the whole day. Elias stepped onto the island. The air felt different here. Cooler. Quieter. He turned to thank the boatman. But before he could speak, the old man simply tipped his cap, pushed away from the shore, and rowed back toward the village, without asking why Elias had come, without asking what he hoped to find. The sea carried the little boat farther and farther away. Soon, only the sound of gentle waves remained. Elias stood alone. The winding stone path climbed steadily toward the lighthouse. At the very top, the old wooden door waited. And there, exactly where he had seen it the night before, the single white feather still rested on the first step. Chapter 2, Part 4. The door that remembered the white feather did not move, not even as the sea breeze climbed the rocky path. It rested upon the first stone step, as though the island itself was protecting it. Elias walked slowly toward the lighthouse. The path curved gently around patches of wild grass. Small white flowers bloomed between the rocks. Tiny butterflies drifted lazily from blossom to blossom. Everything felt peaceful. Nothing felt abandoned. The lighthouse grew taller with every step. Its weathered stone walls carried the colors of countless seasons. Soft gray, pale silver, hints of moss where the rain had lingered. Yet despite its age, there wasn't a single crack large enough to suggest neglect. Someone, or something, had cared for this place for a very long time. Elias reached the final step. The feather lay at his feet. He bent down carefully. It was perfectly clean, pure white, long and elegant. A feather from a gull, though somehow softer than any gull feather he had ever touched. The moment he lifted it, a gentle gust of wind circled the lighthouse. Not strong, just enough to stir the grass. The old oak door released a quiet sigh, almost like someone taking a slow breath after many years. Elias looked toward the heavy brass lock, darkened by decades of sea air. He reached into his coat pocket, The old brass key rested warmly in his hand. For several seconds, he simply looked at it. Keys, he had always believed, were symbols of trust. Someone had once decided that one particular person should be allowed inside. He slid the key into the lock. It fit perfectly. No resistance, no hesitation. He turned it once. A soft click echoed through the silent morning. Not loud, not dramatic, just certain. The heavy door eased open by itself. No grinding wood, no shower of dust, only cool air flowing gently from within. It carried the scent of old cedar, salt, and freshly polished brass. Elias smiled faintly. This place was never abandoned. He stepped inside. The entrance hall was dim but peaceful. Sunlight streamed through narrow windows. Golden beams stretched across the circular stone floor. A spiral staircase wound upward through the center of the tower. Its polished wooden railing gleamed softly. Someone had dusted it recently. There wasn't a single cobweb, not one broken step, not one fallen stone. Everything was spotless, as though the keeper had simply stepped outside for a morning walk. A wooden coat rack stood beside the door. Upon it hung an old navy blue raincoat, dry, neatly arranged. Below it, a pair of polished leather boots. Waiting, Elias slowly walked farther inside. On a small round table, a ceramic teapot rested beside two cups. One cup sat upside down. The other remained upright, as though someone had expected company. He touched the teapot. Still warm. His hand paused. That was impossible. No one had lived here for 80 years. Outside, a lone seagull cried above the cliffs. Its voice drifted through the open doorway, then faded into silence. Elias looked toward the staircase. It rose in quiet circles, disappearing into the lantern room high above. At that very moment, a sound floated down from somewhere near the top. Not footsteps, not a voice, a melody, soft, gentle. Someone was humming, only a few notes, slowly, calmly, as though they had all the time in the world. Chapter 2, Part 5. The Keeper's Melody. The melody drifted gently down the spiral staircase. Not loudly, not clearly, just enough to be heard. A quiet tune, without words. It rose and fell with the rhythm of the sea. Elias remained where he was. He listened. The notes felt strangely familiar. Not because he had heard them before, but because they sounded like something that had always existed. The lighthouse itself seemed to recognize the melody. The wooden steps answered with tiny echoes. The brass lantern hooks shimmered softly in the morning light. Even the air felt warmer. After a few moments, the humming stopped. Silence returned. Patient, unhurried. Elias looked toward the staircase. Hello. His voice was calm. It floated upward, curving gently through the tower. No answer came, only the distant cry of another seagull outside. He placed the white feather carefully inside his notebook. Then, step by step, He began climbing. The staircase curved around the inside of the tower. Each level opened into a small circular room. The first door stood slightly open. Inside, a tiny kitchen. Copper pans hung neatly above an old stove. Shelves held glass jars filled with dried herbs. A loaf of bread rested beneath a clean linen cloth. Beside it, a small jar of blackberry jam. The bread looked fresh, as though someone had baked it only that morning. Elias smiled gently. Either someone had been here very recently, or the lighthouse had learned how to keep its own time. He continued upward. The second room was a study. Books lined every wall. Not detective stories. Not history books. Poetry. Astronomy. Navigation. Botany. Music. Every volume had been carefully arranged. No dust. No faded pages. In the center stood an old oak desk. Upon it rested an open journal. A fountain pen lay beside it. Its ink had not yet dried. Elias stepped closer. The final sentence had been written in beautiful handwriting. The sea remembers every promise. Nothing else. No date. No signature. Only that single sentence. He reached out, then stopped. Something told him. This journal was waiting, not hiding. There would be time to read it later. He quietly closed the cover. The staircase continued upward. The walls gradually became brighter. More sunlight entered through the narrow windows. Outside, the Atlantic sparkled beneath the clear sky. Far below, the little fishing village looked peaceful. Children chased one another along the docks. Fishing boats drifted lazily in the harbor. The world beyond the lighthouse carried on, completely unaware of the quiet mystery above. One final turn, and Elias reached the lantern room. The great glass windows surrounded him on every side. The view stretched endlessly across the ocean. At the center of the room stood the enormous lighthouse lens. Crystal clear, beautifully polished. Its brass frame gleamed as though someone had cared for it every single day. The mechanism was still, silent, waiting. Beside it, an empty wooden rocking chair faced the sea. It moved ever so slightly. Forward, then back. Forward, then back. Though there was no wind inside the room. Resting on the seat was a small violin. Its wood glowed warmly in the sunlight. One string was missing. The bow rested neatly beside it. Elias approached slowly. He knelt beside the chair. The violin was old. Very old. Yet perfectly cared for. As he looked closer, he noticed tiny initials carved into the back. EM before he could wonder what the letters meant. A voice behind him spoke, softly, almost like another note in the melody. You finally found it. Elias turned slowly. The lantern room was empty. No one stood near the staircase. No one stood by the windows. Only the quiet sea, the gentle morning light, and the rocking chair, which had suddenly come to a complete stop. Chapter 2, Part 6. The name inside the violin. The room became perfectly still. Even the waves below seemed quieter. Elias remained kneeling beside the rocking chair. He did not rush to stand. He had learned long ago that silence often spoke more honestly than frightened questions. The voice had been close enough to feel. Yet the lantern room was empty. Sunlight poured through the great glass windows. Tiny particles of dust drifted lazily through the warm light. Nothing moved, nothing hid. After several peaceful breaths, Elias stood. He looked toward the spiral staircase. "Is someone here?" His words floated gently through the tower. No answer returned. Only the distant rhythm of waves touching the cliffs below. The rocking chair remained motionless. The violin rested exactly where it had been. Its polished wood reflected the morning light like amber. Elias picked it up carefully. It was lighter than he expected. The instrument carried the faint scent of cedar and sea salt. Someone had loved this violin. Not simply owned it. Loved it. He turned it over once more. The initials, EM, were carved by hand. Tiny, careful, almost hidden beneath the varnish. Then he noticed something else. Near the bottom edge, a narrow line, almost invisible. Not a crack, a seam. His fingers followed it gently. The back of the violin was made to open. Not easily, not accidentally. He searched for a latch. There wasn't one. Instead, a tiny circular indentation rested beside the carved initials, almost the exact size of the brass key. Elias reached slowly into his pocket. The old key felt warmer than before. He hesitated. Should a key meant for a lighthouse open a violin? It made no sense. Yet nothing about Blackwater had followed ordinary rules. He placed the tip of the key into the tiny circle. It fit perfectly. There was no click, no mechanism, only the softest sigh. The back panel of the violin lifted by itself. Inside, there was no music, no hidden jewels, no secret map, only a folded piece of paper. Perfectly preserved, cream-colored, tied with a thin blue ribbon. Elias carefully untied it. The paper unfolded without tearing. The handwriting matched the mysterious letter that had arrived at his apartment. Beautiful, elegant, patient. At the top of the page, only one line had been written. "If you have reached this room," a pause, "then you have already listened more carefully than anyone else." Elias smiled, very faintly. He continued reading. "Do not search for the person who died. Search for the promise they were trying to keep." His eyes moved to the final sentence. And for the first time, a name appeared. Trust Eleanor Mayfield. Nothing else. No explanation. No signature. Only that name. Eleanor Mayfield. E.M. The same initials carved into the violin. Elias folded the paper with great care. He slipped it inside his notebook beside the white feather. Outside, a cloud drifted across the sun. The lantern room grew gently dim. Then, from somewhere far below, the old grandfather clock inside the lighthouse chimed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Exactly 6 slow chimes. But something was wrong. Elias had walked through every room. There had been no clock. The final chime faded. A peaceful silence followed. Then, somewhere beneath his feet, a hidden door quietly unlocked. Chapter 3, Part 1. The hidden room beneath the lighthouse. The sound was almost impossible to hear. Not the heavy groan of ancient wood, not the scrape of rusted iron. Only a quiet click, as though a lock, long forgotten, had simply remembered its purpose. Elias remained perfectly still. The lighthouse returned to silence. Sunlight filtered through the great crystal lens above him. The violin rested safely in his hands. The folded letter remained tucked inside his notebook. He waited 1 minute, then another. Nothing else happened. Hidden rings. Yet somewhere below, a door had unlocked. He began walking slowly around the circular room. Every directions in between. He pressed it gently. Nothing happened. He turned it slightly. Still nothing. Then, the blue scarf continued to sway. Forward, then back. Forward, then back. Its gentle movement slowly faded, until the chair became completely still. Elias stood quietly in the doorway. He did not enter immediately. The room felt deeply personal. Not hidden, not abandoned. Simply lived in. The fire crackled softly inside the stone fireplace. Warm amber light danced across rows of old books. Unlike most forgotten libraries, nothing here was covered in dust. The shelves had been carefully polished. Every book stood perfectly upright. Every chair rested neatly beneath its table. Someone had cared for this place for a very long time. Elias stepped inside. The wooden floor gave a soft creak beneath his boots. Immediately, a grandfather clock somewhere in the room answered. One quiet tick, then another. Its rhythm blended peacefully with the fire. On the table, the teapot released another curl of steam. Beside it, 2 porcelain cups waited. One already filled with tea, the other empty. Elias smiled faintly. Whoever had arranged this room had expected company. He walked toward the bookshelves. Most of the spines carried no titles, only years. 1939, 1940, 1941, 1942. One book. For every year. Curious. He removed the volume marked **** 1946. It was surprisingly light. Inside, there were no printed pages, only handwritten entries. Every page had been written by the same careful hand. The very first sentence read, ***, the sea remembers everything we cannot bear to remember ourselves. Elias gently turned another page. Each entry described ordinary days. Morning fog, fresh bread, repairing fishing nets, children laughing along the harbor, the lighthouse lamp being polished every evening before sunset. Nothing unusual, nothing mysterious. It was a journal, a simple record of peaceful life. Then, halfway through the book, the writing changed. The words became shorter. The spaces between sentences grew longer. The final entry before Christmas read, ***, tomorrow, a visitor will arrive. Nothing more. The next page was blank. So was the one after it. The journal simply ended. Elias slowly closed the book. His eyes wandered toward the fireplace. Above the mantel hung a single painting. It showed Blackwater Lighthouse during a bright summer afternoon. A young woman stood outside beside the entrance. She held a violin beneath one arm. The sea breeze lifted her dark hair. She wasn't smiling for the painter. She was looking toward the ocean, waiting. At the bottom corner of the painting, a small brass plaque carried her name. Eleanor Mayfield ***. Elias stepped closer. The face matched the feeling he had carried since reading the letter. Gentle. Not the staircase, not the fireplace, the bookshelf behind him. He turned. The melody stopped. Silence returned. Then, one book, very slowly, slid outward from the shelf by itself. Only an inch, as though inviting him to open it. Chapter 3, Part 3. The book that chose its reader. The book remained slightly open, not falling, not moving, simply waiting. Elias looked at the shelf around it. Hundreds of books stood perfectly aligned. Only this one had stepped forward, as though it had quietly decided. Its time had finally come. He reached toward it. His fingers paused just before touching the worn leather cover. There was no title, no year, only a small silver emblem. A lighthouse, standing beneath 7 stars. The leather felt smooth with age. Not brittle, not forgotten. Warm. Almost as though another pair of hands had held it only moments before. He lifted it from the shelf. It was heavier than the journals. When he opened the first page, there were no words. Only a pressed white feather, the same size, the same shape, as the one resting safely inside his notebook. He compared them. They were nearly identical. One carried by the sea, one preserved inside a book for decades. He gently turned the next page. Still blank. Another page. Blank again. Page after page. Nothing. Only soft cream-colored paper. Elias frowned gently. He held the book closer to the fire. The empty pages reflected the warm light. Then, slowly, lines of ink began to appear. Not all at once. One sentence at a time. As though someone invisible was writing while he watched. The first words emerged gracefully across the page. Every visitor believes they have come to solve the mystery. A pause. More ink appeared. Only a few discover. Another pause. That the mystery has been waiting to heal them instead. Elias remained silent. The handwriting matched the letter, matched the journal, matched every careful note he had found since arriving in Blackwater. He turned another page. New words quietly formed. If you are reading this, please do not search for the murderer first. Search for the music. He whispered the sentence to himself. The music, the melody, the violin. Eleanor. Every clue had pointed not toward a crime, but toward a song. He closed the book gently. Across the room, the fire crackled. The blue scarf on the chair remained perfectly still. Outside the hidden library, somewhere deep within the lighthouse, a floorboard creaked, not from age, from footsteps, slow, measured, unhurried. Someone was walking through the lighthouse above. Not running, not hiding, simply walking. One step, then another. The footsteps crossed the entrance hall, paused for a moment, then began climbing the spiral staircase toward the lantern room. Elias listened carefully. The sound was unmistakable. There was someone inside Blackwater Lighthouse. Someone who walked with quiet confidence, as though they knew every stair by heart. Then, just as the footsteps reached the top, the familiar melody began again. Only this time, it was no longer humming. It was the clear, gentle sound of a violin, one string missing, yet somehow, the melody was still complete. Chapter 3, Part 4. The Last Promise. The violin continued to play, softly, gently, as though every note had been waiting patiently for 80 years. Elias climbed back through the hidden staircase. The library, the fire, the blue scarf, everything remained exactly as he had found it. Only the melody had changed. It was no longer distant. It was closer now, waiting above. He reached the lantern room. Sunlight still filled the great glass windows. The rocking chair stood motionless. The violin was gone. Only the bow remained resting on the seat. And beside it, a single page of sheet music. The title read, "For the First Dawn." Beneath it, in elegant handwriting, one final message. Truth was never hidden here. Only grief. Elias slowly read the music. He wasn't a musician, but he recognized something. The missing string, the unfinished melody, the abandoned lighthouse. None of them had been accidents. Someone had stopped playing before the song could end. He turned the page over. Another sentence. Eleanor did not die here. She stayed. A long silence filled the lantern room. Then, a memory finally returned. Not his memory, The Lighthouse's Memory. Winter, 1946. A storm, a frightened child, a boat trapped against the rocks. The keeper, Eleanor, running into the storm together, not to escape, to save someone. Only one returned. The keeper carried the child safely home. But Eleanor never came back. No murder, no secret killer, only a promise. She had promised she would save the child. And she had kept that promise. The town, unable to bear the grief, created another story. An easier story. An accident. A mystery. Something simpler than loss. And so the truth had slowly disappeared, until no one remembered why the lighthouse mattered. Elias closed his eyes. The sea outside was calm. The wind was gentle. He finally understood. The mystery had never been about death. It had always been about remembrance. He picked up the bow, placed it beside the sheet music, and quietly whispered, "Eleanor Mayfield." At that moment, the lighthouse lens began to glow. Not brightly, warmly, like the first light of morning. The melody returned one final time. Complete now. Peaceful. Whole. The rocking chair moved gently. Forward. Then back. Forward. Then still. A soft breeze touched the room, carrying the scent of lavender. And somewhere beside him, a voice whispered, not with sadness, with gratitude. "Thank you for remembering." Elias smiled, very softly. Then he walked to the lantern windows. Far below, the village rested peacefully by the sea. Fishing boats drifted in the harbor. Children ran along the docks. Life continued, as it always had, as it always would. He understood now. Some mysteries do not ask to be solved. They ask to be carried, to be remembered, to be spoken aloud one last time, so they can finally rest. And as the sun rose over Blackwater, for the first time in 80 years, the lighthouse shone again, not because it was needed, but because promises, when kept, never truly go dark. Epilogue. The light that never went out. The lighthouse continued to shine, not with the brilliant beam that once guided ships through dangerous storms, but with a warm, peaceful glow. The kind of light that quietly reminded people they were never truly alone. Elias remained in the lantern room until sunset. He wrote only a few pages in his notebook. Not every detail. Some stories, he believed, belonged to the place that had lived them. When evening arrived, he carefully closed the hidden library. The old brass key turned one final time. The wooden door beneath the lantern room disappeared once more beneath the polished floor. The lighthouse had shared its memories. Now, it wished to keep its peace. Elias placed the violin gently back into the rocking chair. The missing string was still missing, yet somehow, it no longer felt unfinished. The melody had already found its ending. Before leaving, he placed the white feather beside the violin, exactly where Eleanor would have wanted it. The sea breeze drifted through the open windows. The feather lifted ever so slightly, then settled again, almost like a quiet goodbye. As Elias walked down the spiral staircase, he noticed something he hadn't seen before. On every wooden step, tiny names had been carved over the years. Not tourists, not visitors. The names of lighthouse keepers. Generations of them. Each one had left only a first name. Samuel, Margaret, William, Thomas, and at the very top, the final name. Eleanor. No surname. She hadn't wanted to be remembered for who she was, only for keeping the light alive. Outside, the old boatman was already waiting at the dock. He smiled as Elias approached. You found what you came for. Elias looked back toward the lighthouse. I found something better. The old man nodded. I thought you might. Neither of them spoke again during the journey home. The ocean carried the little boat across perfectly calm water. The village slowly grew larger. Behind them, Blackwater Lighthouse remained bright against the evening sky. For the first time in 80 years, its light did not fade after sunset. People noticed. Children pointed toward the island. Old fishermen quietly removed their hats. An elderly woman standing at the harbor smiled through gentle tears. No one asked why the light had returned. Some answers were felt long before they were understood. The next morning, Elias packed his bag. Before driving away, he left a single envelope with Thomas at the inn. Inside, there was only one sentence. Please never let the lighthouse stand alone again. Years passed. Visitors slowly returned to Blackwater. Not because of ghost stories, not because of mysteries, because they had heard about a lighthouse, where kindness had become legend, where a promise had outlived time, where every evening, just before sunset, someone always found a single white feather, waiting quietly upon the first stone step. No one ever discovered who placed it there, and somehow, no one needed to. Far beyond the cliffs, the Atlantic continued its endless song. The lighthouse answered with its quiet light, and somewhere, in the gentle space between memory and morning, a violin played one last peaceful melody. Not for the past, not for the future, only for anyone who needed a little hope before falling asleep. The end.